and apparently he doesn't think that's going to be much of a problem. Take a listen.
Regular season playoffs, we can beat anybody in the league without Steph, and our guys know that. It's going to be hard to beat anybody without Steph, KD, Clay, and Draymond. I'm going to have to coach a lot better for that to happen, but we're very confident we're going to get the other three guys back here soon, and we'll hold down the fort and then some. I think we'll be able to put something together and really build some momentum, and then the plan would be at some point get Steph back, and now we really get a boost, and now we're rolling.
I love that the plan is just get Steph back, and then we'll get a boost and everything will be fine. Nick, is Steve Kerr right? Are the Warriors, can they beat anybody with or without Steph?
Well, if we are taking what he said very literally, regular season or playoffs, we can beat anybody without Steph. Well, in an individual game, of course he's correct. Yes, absolutely. Like, they can. Now, can they beat the Houston Rockets in the Western Conference Finals without Steph Curry? I would not bet on that. However, his larger point, which is the idea that we should struggle in the first round of the playoffs because we're down to 3 Hall of Famers instead of 4, the idea that we should struggle in the first round of the playoffs, because that's the only round that Steve Kerr has said Steph is going to be out for. He hasn't said he's going to be out for the second round, certainly not the third round. The idea that the Warriors should be in jeopardy when all they have in the first round of the playoffs is the second best player in the world, the second best shooter ever, the defending Defensive Player of the Year champion Draymond Green, like that to me is ludicrous. That to me would be an indictment of Kevin Durant, the likes of which I'm not ready to make. They home court advantage and 3 All-Stars on your team in the absolute primes of their career. Like, there is no reason they should have any trouble in the first round, and we expect Steph would be back sometime in the second round. Now, if he's not, and you're less than full strength playing Houston in the conference finals, well, that is an enormous obstacle. But they're not playing Houston in the first round.
Yeah, I don't believe him at all. I don't believe anything he's saying. And I don't believe that him trying to say that the players know that. Oh, the players know that. No, the players don't know that. Because they haven't played all the teams. They haven't played the teams from the East. They haven't played Houston, and they've struggled without Steph. So that's just a flat lie. All right, sometimes the coaches, they do give us insight, but sometimes they just flat out just lie to us. All right, there is no way that you are taking the court in the Western Conference Finals and you are not more stressed out in the first round than the 4 previous years. All right, that is not the truth. They're not telling the truth, and the truth of the matter is, look at the teams in the Western Conference. You think they're not going to struggle with Utah?
Right.
Hold on. You're talking about in the first round?
In the first round.
Oh, I don't think they should.
Look at the numbers from the last 3 years in the first round. All right? And if they thought they were so great with Steph, why'd they go out and get KD?
Because they could. Like,
No. But if they were so good, why'd they go get him?
But hold on. When you say look at the numbers in the first round, what do you mean?
How they dominated the first round the last 3 years.
Oh, okay, yes.
They will struggle more in this year's first round without Steph going against Utah or Minnesota than they did the previous 3 years. So what he said is not true.
Obviously, they're not as good without Steph Curry. I'm not arguing they're as good without Steph Curry. Nobody would say that.
I'm just talking about what the coach said. I disregard what you said. I'm talking about what the coach said.
Right, but the coach said we can beat anybody without Steph. If we're just talking about the first round of the playoffs, do you think they would be in jeopardy of being upset in the first round?
I think they will struggle. And if they struggle more in the first round, it brings in jeopardy the second, the third round, and the finals. It's the wear and tear that we thought that Golden State would go through, which lead to their demise. So struggling in the first round, to me, is very important.
When I asked you yesterday, who do you think was more irreplaceable, we talked about that a little bit, KD or Steph. You know, you brought up a good point that this offense runs through Steph. So when you take it out, there's a little bit of something missing there. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah,
and that's probably why they would struggle.
Of course I think there's something missing there. What's missing is you're removing one of the most unique players in the history of the league, the hands-down best shooter in the history of the league, and a guy that has more gravity on a defense than any player in the history of the league. None of that's hyperbole. I think all that has been proven out to be factually accurate, which is why I do think if you were to, and Cece's point that if all of a sudden now, because you have to play harder in the first round, more guys are banged up, you're more tired, you're not as rested, how it could hurt you later in the playoffs. I agree with that. But the way I look at it is this, is the idea that whomever the Warriors play in the first round, put the two best players against each other. The Warriors players better. Put their second best players against each other. The Warriors players better. Put their third. Like I think people are underselling, and I can't believe I'm the one saying this, how good Kevin Durant is. Kevin Durant plus Klay Thompson plus Draymond Green are good enough to be a heavy favorite over any team you're going to play in the first round of the playoffs. Like, Minnesota's one of those teams. Minnesota last night in a critical game lost to Memphis, who isn't even trying to win games right now. Memphis was the worst team in the league, now the second worst team in the league. The idea that, like, all of a sudden the Warriors should be on upset alert in round one, I don't buy. Now, could what happens in round one make them more on upset alert in round two or three? I'll listen to any of that, but I just don't see it, and I don't see it at all.
All right, we'll leave it there. Coming up, let's go back to the Odell conversation. Could the Giants really move on from him? We'll talk about that next on First.